Prime, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to hoist their very first Vince Lombardi trophy with a 41-33 victory over the defending Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. The Eagles are Super Bowl champs, and you better believe the folks inside Chickies and Pete's in Philly are going nuts after watching that final Hail Mary from Tom Brady fall incomplete, giving the Eagles their very first Super Bowl championship. There's the confetti inside Chickies and Pete's. There's confetti inside US Bank Stadium right now. It's in the colors of Kelly green and white because the Eagles are champions here in this 2017 season. Wow, what an evening here for Super Bowl 52. Welcome once again to NFL Game Day Prime. I am Rhett Lewis here with two guys who know what it feels like to win a Super Bowl. Charlie Casserly down on the edge, Reggie Wayne right here with me, and we're going to get you out to US Bank Stadium where Chris Rose, Deion Sanders, and LT will take over with the stars of the game here in just a little while. But I mentioned a historic night in Minneapolis tonight for a ton of reasons. Yes, it's Philly's first championship. How about the most yards from scrimmage combined from both teams in any NFL game? Not just any Super Bowl, not just any playoff game. Most points scored in any Super Bowl. I mean, this was absolutely a fantastic game here. Guys, just your first initial thoughts here, Reggie, to watching this.
Man, it's an unbelievable win by Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Just to be able to continue to put points up in that second half, knowing that New England was going to come out with something different that they didn't show in the first half. And you got to take your hats off to head coach Doug Peterson and keeping Nick Foles, right on target and leading his team down each possession.
How about your backup quarterback, okay, who does this? And, in the first two games, everybody's talking about how good he played. The game against Atlanta played zone, he dumped it off. Last week, Minnesota made a number of mental errors that gave him easy plays. Hey, Nick Foles earned it tonight. He really did. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, he's going to be the Super Bowl MVP.
Last week they put Crisco on the grease pole on the poles.
It's going to get weird down in Philly tonight.
Let him climb the poles. You want the Super Bowl.
Let them climb whatever they want.
So, as you just saw there, clearly, easily the most combined yards in a playoff game between these two teams. 1,152, is that the final? Wow. It was the most total yards from either offense all season long. An absolutely prolific offensive output here tonight. In the second half, almost every possession ended with a score. And you know what? One of the most important didn't. And that was when we saw the first sack of the game and the first turnover by the Patriots, thanks to Brandon Graham, who's got his hands on that football, and then also Derek Barnett, who ended up recovering that fumble that led to the Jake Elliott field goal, which would give the Eagles the final margin in this game. And did I just hear that? Is it official? Nick Foles is your Super Bowl MVP. Let's take a look at the tape from tonight, give you a shot of what Foles and Brady did on the evening side by side. And it was pretty impressive there. 373 from Foles, 505 from Brady in a loss.
Wow.
I sent out a tweet in the second half, and you can say a lot of things, but I think it was an obvious one to send, that Philadelphia was not going to win the game unless they got a turnover, because they couldn't stop Brady. And Graham came through with the turnover, and obviously we know that's the obvious difference in the ball game, because that stopped the possession of New England. You get the field goal, makes it an 8-point game. New England doesn't have enough time left to get the game. Another thing is New England cost them a timeout. With 8:35 to go in the fourth quarter, they used the timeout. Could that timeout have given them one more shot to get closer, maybe to have the Hail Mary? There's a lot of what-ifs there.
Sure.
So on the thing.
Well, and one of the what-ifs was, what are the Patriots going to do to get back into this game in the second half? Clearly, we said, where was Gronk in the first half? They find him. Very first drive, Reggie. It was all Gronk all the time.
Yes.
And then he comes back and adds a second touchdown after that the first drive in the second half. And, I mean, it went score for score for score. It was almost as if you thought who was going to have the ball last in this thing, and that's who was going to win this.
Man, one thing about it, you can just look out throughout this whole game. New England's defense never found an answer.
Yeah, they never got consistent pressure.
Exactly. They kept them off balance. They kept them guessing. And that's what you normally don't see against New England. New England normally figures it out, forces you to do a crucial turnover, and then they get the ball and they get the lead and they never give it up. But it just Doug Peterson did a great job of play calling throughout this whole game.
Give him a lot of credit.
And they kept Matt Patricia in that defense.
And you got you got Frank Reich there, offensive coordinator, John DiFilippo, the quarterback coach. I mean, the triumvirate there did an outstanding job, and you got to give them all credit during the course of the game.
Oh, sure. The way that game was called for Philly offensively, I thought was pretty spectacular. How about I keep going back to that third down conversion from Nick Foles to Zach Ertz, takes the big hit on that final drive to kind of keep things moving. And here's your drive chart for the Eagles. Started off with a touchdown after the Patriots came down and scored right away. They went 11 for 85 and almost 5 minutes off the clock. Then went field goal, touchdown. The touchdown drive, you're looking at number 3 in the second half. 75 yards, 7 minutes off the clock in the fourth quarter. That's the game right there.
You know, Al Michaels did a shout out to Howie Roseman, the general manager, and that was very nice of him to do that. It was a class move by Al Michaels. But, you know, a couple of things here. Number one, Joe Gibbs, when we were with the Redskins, always said that the most important player on the team is obviously the quarterback. The second most important player is the backup quarterback. And it's clearly bringing Nick Foles back was crucial in this situation because some teams, if without a good quarterback, it would have been over for them. Give Howie Roseman credit, number one, for getting Carson Wentz. That was a brilliant trade going up from, I think, 13 all the way to 2 and getting Wentz. That's number one. But number two, philosophically, when Andy Reid came to the Eagles back years ago, okay, I remember him telling me about you got to have strong offensive and defensive lines. That was a core. The Eagles kept that, and that was a big part of Howie Roseman. If you think about what they did here, is making those offensive and defensive lines strong and keeping them strong, drafting, free agency, whatever it was. And you saw that today with the depth in the defensive line and the offensive line. And that offensive line was the difference in this football game because it controlled New England's defensive line.
And this is how Nick Foles, who Howie Roseman went out and got to be his backup quarterback this year, 28 of 43, 373 yards, 3 touchdowns. The one blemish, the interception, I mean, that was a tough one to put on him. Alshon Jeffrey kind of had it for a second, tipped it up into the air. Duron Harmon eventually comes down with it for the pick, but he finishes with a passer rating of just over 106. And Nick Foles, taking over for Carson Wentz late in the season, guides them into the 1 seed, through the playoffs, into the Super Bowl, and now to their very first Vince Lombardi trophy. I mean, and this we're talking about a guy who was contemplating retirement, Reggie, in the offseason.
Yeah, and when his number was called, he was available. He was ready. I've been in his situation before where I was contemplating retirement at one point in time. And for him to sit up there and say, I'm going to come back and play in the biggest game on the biggest stage and perform like the way he did, that lets you know that this is a professional football player right there in front of our eyes.
Well, I mean, look, we're going to celebrate the Super Bowl here for the Philadelphia Eagles, but at some point you're going to wonder, what are they going to do with Nick Foles? You know, if you get a healthy Carson Wentz back, I'm sure there's going to be people who would love to have Nick Foles as their starting quarterback based on the performance that he's had the last 7 or 8 weeks now since he took over for Carson Wentz.
In 1960, when the Eagles won their last championship, it came down to the last play of the game where Bart Starr threw a pass to Jim Taylor, and what do you call it? The Eagles got him. Chuck Bednarik tackled him, who played both ways in the game, and he held him to the ground as the clock ran out. And this one right to the last play of the game, too.
In today's NFL.
I was around long enough to see that one. This one.
I knew you were going to give me that historical perspective, Charlie.
But I was a little kid then, so.
The Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champions, 41-33 over the New England Patriots tonight inside U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. We're going to get you out there to Chris Rose, Deion Sanders, and LaDainian Tomlinson with all the stars of the game here shortly. But guys, on the flip side of the quarterback spectrum, Tom Brady had a phenomenal performance. I mean, 28 of 48, 505 yards. Again, we go back to the chunk plays in this game. I mean, so many plays for over 20-plus yards. The Patriots had 7 of them in the first half alone. This is the most yards in a Super Bowl that we've ever seen from a quarterback. Tom Brady now adding that distinction to his Super Bowl resume, which is already the very best in NFL history. 3 touchdowns, 0 picks, but the 1 turnover. He gets the pressure from Brandon Graham. And what did they do on that, Reggie? Maybe pulled a Tom Coughlin a little bit back from Super Bowl 42.
Exactly. They took a page out of Tom Coughlin's book. They moved Brandon Graham who's normally an outside guy. They moved him into defensive tackle.
They've done that a little bit before.
Exactly,
but, yeah.
but it showed up right when it was supposed to.
Exactly,
he was able to get in there. He's the guy that got a bunch of defensive moves where, he can create some pressure on Tom Brady, and they kept doing it, and eventually it worked. He got to Tom Brady, and they got the sack fumble return.
Well, there's a couple of things there. First of all, getting Chris Long to come in and play a role as an outside rusher allowed Graham to move inside. And they were doing that to me. I remember doing it all season. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought in September.
They had been using it.
Yeah,
sure.
I thought it was all along they've been using them in there. So that's it. But when you go back on this football game, Belichick will never make an excuse. The Patriots will never make an excuse. Malcolm Butler's an excuse. Malcolm Butler plays in this game. He's got to be worth something on that pass defense to make a difference.
Now, I thought that was a really good adjustment that Matt Patricia and the Patriots made to put Stephon Gilmore on Alshon Jeffrey after Jeffrey was just tearing up Eric Rowe early in the game, who was in there for Malcolm Butler.
I never understood why they didn't do that in the first place.
Right.
Now, if you're playing zone and right and left positions, okay, I got that. But that was one of the things to me is in your matchups, whether Butler played or not, you put, Gilmore on Jeffrey. Jeffrey can't run. You're always going to know where he is because he can't run away from you. So you got to have a size guy on him to play him. You have a size guy on him to play him, he can take him away.
Yeah.
So, and they did that in the second half.
And,
but
I mean,
you didn't stop Philly. They still scored.
They scored almost every possession.
Yeah, because, again, the running backs from New England, the linebackers aren't very good. And Clement ended up making a big play in the second half, too.
So I'm sure Bill Belichick and all the Patriots will get a ton of questions. I don't know how many answers we will get as to why Malcolm Butler did not play. He played on special teams now, which is the odd part of it.
Which is weird, yeah, exactly.
Because you think if for whatever reason, he did something to warrant the benching and you weren't going to play him at all on defense, that Belichick wouldn't have wasted a spot on, and it would have made him inactive. But so that obviously is something we're hoping to get a little clarity on as we get to some of the post-game reaction. We have plenty of Twitter reaction here for you, as you might imagine. How about King James chiming in? This is one incredible game, to say the least, obviously. Amazing. Second most points scored combined in Super Bowl history. OBJ, gotta have it. He wants that. He wants that Lombardi. He wants that ring that you're wearing, Charlie Casserly, on our set right here. After he watches his NFC East rivals get theirs.
He got to get his own ring, tell him.
Okay.
Pull my ring out.
Yeah, pull that thing out.
Man.
Why is it in your pocket, Reggie?
I don't know, man.
What's it doing in your pocket? Put that thing on, man.
I always forget about
There
this.
it is.
At least it's still in your pocket.
Look at those bad boys.
Look at that.
That's some good-looking hardware right there.
It's not easy, Rhett. It's not easy to get this.
No kidding. No kidding. All right.